Well, we've got past the French election, first and foremost, and because the Chinese have started tightening monetary policy, they're trying to take a bit of steam out of the system. People have refocused on that as a risk. We've started to see some of the credit growth slow down. Some of the recent data has been a little bit softer. So people, as ever with the Chinese, are saying, can they get this right this time round? Is it just a touch on the brakes, or actually is it going to be something a little bit stronger?
Having said all of that, generally, from the survey, it would seem that investors are relatively happy with the current environment.
Yeah, they are. I mean, investors are pretty relaxed. That's always something that slightly worries us, and it was perhaps no coincidence that our survey came out in the middle of last week, said that everybody was relaxed, and the next couple of days we had a nice little wobble in markets. And one of the things I picked up out of it was that the proportion of people taking downside protection had actually got to its lowest in 3 years.
Just where you step in, Steve.
No, I mean, there's nothing.
With your lesson on options.
No.
What should people be doing?
No, not for me to say that people don't want to take out any insurance. You wouldn't buy a car without taking out some insurance, would you? You wouldn't buy a house without taking some insurance. If people want to buy stocks at all-time highs in terms of valuations, many metrics, without taking any protection, that's up to them. That's their problem. But I think the point is there's a lack of alternatives, isn't there? What else can anyone own apart from equities? I guess is the point which they're thinking.
Well, and it's a very fair point, because if you look at credit markets, yields are very low, government bond yields are still very low. So when you look at an equity market, even the US, which is on 18 times earnings, you're still talking about something which is over a 5% earnings yield, which is your long run real yield from holding the equity. Where else can you get that? So basically, investors are being forced out of other asset classes into equities.
Is the big factor here that could change things is the unwinding of this $4.5 trillion held by the Federal Reserve? Could that be? I mean, I know people said short term we're not worried about European political risk. We are worried about China, but is it actions from the Federal Reserve that actually could be the tipping point for this market?
Yeah, potentially. I mean, look, from our cross-asset perspective, we've been defensive in bond markets because that's been our big worry. We felt that if something was going to come along and puncture the equity market rally, it would be some form of taper tantrum in the bond market. But that requires the central banks to be more aggressive on policy. As long as the Fed is withdrawing that stimulus very, very gradually, then equity markets are fine.